Hey there everyone, this is Nick as founder and CEO at Hitgoc. So in previous video we saw how to work with for each method, right? So yeah, it was an important method though, right? And in today's video we're gonna see something different, right? Something which is quite complex, but it basically reduces a lot of effort in JavaScript, right? So it's basically called reduce function or reduce method, right? It plays a really important role for the complex calculations and functionality in JavaScript, right? So for that, let me just array data. So just make sure to pay attention over here, right? So it's kind of complex thing over here. We have reduce, right, and a callback function. So now what reduce function does is basically, okay, let me tell you, it has two arguments, right? One is the AQ accumulator, right? It's accumulator, and the current value, you can say curve, right? You can also give it a shorthand to ACC comma CURR curve, right? So it's something like this. So it's kind of different from other methods that we have worked with, right? It has accumulator and current value. Current value, it's something similar to item that we use in previous methods, right? And this accumulator is something, uh let me just tell you, if okay, let me just show you the output of each arguments, right? So if we have current value, let me just show you for the current value, right? Hit save, open the live server, right? Okay, so here we go, right? We Yeah, so as you can see, we got two values over here, def abc. Okay, let me just edit it and make it 1 comma 2 comma 3 comma 4 comma 5, right? So as you can see, we have mentioned this, the size of this array is of 5, right? But we see here only four values, 2, 3, 4, and 5, right? So where does this one go? So basically what happened is the one value is in this accumulator, right? So this is basically, uh, let me just console.log the accumulator, right? So ACC, right? Cur. This function is really very important for when it comes to um, great mathematical calculations, getting the average or sum of all the numbers inside an array, something like that, right? So yeah, so as you can see, the accumulator part, it says 1, we have 1. Other thing is undefined, right? And when it comes to current value, we have 2, 3, 4, and 5. So what's happening here is basically this accumulator stores the initial value of this array, right, in which it's iterating, and the current value starts from the second argument of this array, right? So it works something like this: until you provide some sort of an initial value to this reduce function, and it has to be given somewhere around after this callback function, right? Curly braces, after the curly braces, comma, let's say 0, right? So what's gonna uh like what would happen over here is this 0 now becomes the accumulator, right? And the current value starts from 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Like it starts from 1, right? So accumulator gets shifted towards a little step back, right? The initial value of the accumulator becomes 0 because we have provided this dependency, or you can call it what do we call it? We call it some dependency number, initial value. Okay, we'll call it initial value, right? So initial value for the accumulator is 0, right? And the initial value for the current value is now becomes 1. So hit save, refresh, right? So accumulator becomes 0, cur 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So why we are getting undefined for the accumulators? Because accumulator returns, it never iterates, right? It only, it reduces all the numbers of the array and it basically converts it to the one value, right? So that's why we are seeing just uh one number over here, the very first iteration, not the iteration but the very first value, the initial value, right? So what about these value now? So let me just tell you that uh okay, before telling that, let me just show you the differences. So as soon as I remove this initial value from the reduce function, now the accumulator becomes this initial value, the first value of the array, and the current value starts from the second value of this array, second element of this array. So current value starts from here, and accumulator starts from here, right? So yeah, accumulator becomes 1, current value starts from 2. So this is how it works, right? We're gonna start with 0, and now what's gonna happen here is, let's say we want sum of all the numbers inside this array, right? So what we're gonna do is, okay, the important thing that I was gonna tell you is that whenever we return anything inside this reduce function, it becomes the accumulator, right? Accumulators value get updated, right? It gets updated whatever we are returning in this reduce function, right? So we can say, let's say we want sum of all the numbers inside this array, right? So what we can do here is, let's say return uh what do you got, accumulator plus current value. So let me just explain you what's gonna happen here now. So coming to the basics, initial value of the accumulator is 0, right? So accumulator here would be 0 plus current value would be 1, right? So 0 plus 1 becomes, let's say iteration 1 equals to 1 plus, sorry, 0 plus 1, it becomes 1, right? So maybe I can just make it here, right? So yeah, so iteration 1, first iteration, we're having initial value of accumulator is as 0, right, and current value as 1, so it becomes 1. Now it's returning 1, right? So 1 becomes the value of accumulator gets updated and accumulator becomes 1, right? So initially it was 0, you can say accumulator was 0 initially, right? So at the first iteration, accumulator becomes 1. Now as the accumulator value gets updated, now coming back to the second iteration, what would gonna happen is iteration second equals to accumulator becomes 1 plus the second value of the array is 2. So yeah, 1 plus 2 equals, it becomes 3. Now accumulator value gets updated and it becomes 3, right? So right, this is how this works. Let me just iterate it for each value, right? So it works something like this. Now accumulator becomes 3, 3 plus third value is 3, sorry, 3, 3 plus 3 is 6, accumulator becomes 6. Now this is the third iteration, this is the fourth iteration. Fourth iteration, accumulator becomes 6, right? Value is 4, 6 plus 4 is 10, right? Then accumulator becomes now 10, right? And iteration, fifth iteration, last iteration, accumulator becomes 10 plus the final number becomes 15. Accumulator is 15, right? So as we are returning 15 as the output over here, so the return data would be delivered, would be stored to some variable. We can say returned data, right? Now we can console.log max number return data. See the output, we got 50. Sorry, not max number, but sum of all the numbers. Right, we got 15. So this is right. So this is how we work with reduce function. It's a really important method, right? Make sure to just practice it down. It's a little bit complex, but it's when you just when you guys would understand it, right? It would be quite easy. So yeah, that's it for the video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next upcoming videos. Peace out.